Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right. Hey, everyone. Let us get started. Woohoo! We did it. All right. So first and foremost, this will be our first YouTube live stream for LAAI. So this is fun, and we'll get the tech down. But interesting enough, like people have found us from out of state and keep asking if we will do a live stream. So this is our test. We'll figure this out. These people are not in Lower Alabama, which is interesting because. Woohoo! Yeah. I wonder how much is that.
Sydney.
Yeah. Yes. And so before we start, I just want to do something. So most of you know that Dom is leaving us, one of our sort of, an AI spiritual guide for us, and this will be his last event. And he's moving to Australia on, what did you say, the 17th? May 15th. And so we're going to miss him. He's still going to be part of things. So on behalf of the group, I got you the very first LAAI sweatshirt. There you go. You are going into winter. So, I figured no one in Southern Alabama is buying a sweatshirt right now. I think even the people who sold it to me were there you go. Yeah. We're just all modeling our stuff. It's all LAAI gear. There you go. This is great.
And the official computer.
Yeah, look at that. Look, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. That's great. So today's great. We are going to talk about model context protocols. So I don't know how many people have played with these already or have any understanding of them. The good news is you don't need any understanding because our good friend Paul here is going to get up and walk through these. So model context protocol, or MCPs, have taken over the AI boards, so to speak. And I think it's very interesting because it feels to me like what people have been talking about AI agents for so long is actually going to come out as MCPs in many ways, like the true functionality. And Paul will get into sort of how these are being used. Right now, Paul was telling me about a very interesting one with baykeepers, and so we're going to learn about sort of how it can be practically used and what it is. So without further ado, I will turn this over to Paul. Paul.
Yay!
Woo!
Yeah. So, hello everybody. My name is Paul Lockett. I am the technical director of the Venture Studio here at the Innovation Portal. You can ask me more about that later. But today I'm talking about MCPs. Okay, and why we should even care about these things. First, I just want to ask the room, anybody use MCP, have gone down the rabbit hole yet, has taken a look, just tested the waters? Okay, all right, I got a couple of people in here. So for those of you who know something about MCPs, I got something extra for you as we go along to be able to think more on the business side of what does it actually mean if we're actually going to use these things inside of our work. So first, the definition that is on the MCP, the Model Context Protocol website. MCP is an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to LLMs. Now that says some things, but it's hard to kind of grok, especially if you don't know what some of these words mean, especially inside of a computer science context. You got protocol in there, standardized, talking about applications, how do these things kind of fit together? Give you a little bit of history. MCP was created by Anthropic. If you're familiar with Claude or the other side of the OpenAI to Anthropic, Anthropic's the other company, they made MCP, and this open protocol and standard is being very quickly used by many companies as they try to do what? Provide context LLMs. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. So what's the standard? Anybody? What is a standard? When you hear the word standard, what do you think? Piece of paper, okay? Standard piece of paper. All right, anybody else? An expectation, all right? You expect things to be inside of a certain way. That's the standard. Anybody else? Rules, all right? This is the rules that we follow, and that is the standard, okay? These are good ways to think about what exactly a standard is inside the most common sense. Now, what are some standards that you know about, that you're familiar with, right? We said paper earlier, like it's a standard like format to have something to write on. What are some other standards that exist in the world around us? HTTP is software standard, right? Some more? Got some non-software standards too.
ASTM.
What is that?
ASTM.
What's that?
American Society. I don't know. It's what we use in the lab for everything.
Okay. All right. Another standard, some more?
Pounds and inches and
Right.
miles.
Measurement standards,
Kilometers.
right? All right. So, again, we use these standards. Why? Because they allow us to communicate to each other inside of a common format. Now, I can sit here and say that's 5 inches, and then Dom will sit there and look at it as like, what are you talking about? That's 20 centimeters, right? We can share different standards, but if Dom goes talk to somebody in Europe, they'll understand, 20 centimeters, of course. And if I go talk to another American, we'll understand 5 inches. We're able to share that common understanding about something that's happening inside the real world or elsewhere. Now, again, continuing down this kind of path of software standards. We said one, which is HTTP. Anybody else have any other standards that are happening in software? JSON, okay. Often people are requesting and bleeding LLMs to give them JSON. Something else? REST APIs, right. Other software standards? All right, okay. So that HTTP one was really on point because when we think about the internet, what are the standards that they were thinking about around the internet? Well, we have HTTPS. It's the thing that we type into the links when we're trying to search something, right? And so we have these standards, and they help us do what? Be able to understand something in a similar way that everybody else can. So when I go to a computer and I type in HTTPS, I know I'm talking about a website. That's what I'm gonna get back. I'm not gonna get back anything else. Getting back a website. So some of those software standards that exist, you have REST APIs, others like GraphQL, gRPC, things that developers work on that you would not think about on a regular day basis. Yeah.
Oh yeah, another one I would be remiss if I didn't bring up just basic protocols. Just a handshake.
Handshake. That's a standard. That's a good one. Right? So we have these standards. We use these standards to communicate with each other. And so when we're sitting there and we're thinking about like, what does it mean to actually have a good standard for LLMs? This is where we're getting into with MCPs, all right? Now, a big issue inside of like making new standards is you have this comic here where we're sitting around and we're saying, all right, we got 14 different standards for how to, say for example, have a LLM or an AI or your ChatGPT communicate with some other application. And everybody's like, 14? That's way too many. Let's make another one that's going to be the one that everybody uses. And now there's 15. And so like we're inside this kind of state with AI where we're trying to figure out the best ways to communicate between applications with AI. Reason being is that like at the end of the day, I want to have that AI be able to do more things for me than just tell me a funny joke inside of ChatGPT. And so we need to have a standard that everybody can use to be able to recognize like, hey, I want that AI to do something for me. Let's standardize that process. And so generally, I have my LLM buddy here, okay? He says hello. I made this with ChatGPT's new image, like generation, so you're gonna see some fun little comics as we move along. So here's our LLM. Let's say that, the thing about working with LLMs is that they're really versatile. They know a lot about everything. They've consumed all of human information off the internet, and then some that isn't on the internet too. And they grow bigger and bigger and smarter, and they can answer random questions like, who's the first emperor of China? Right? Who, summarize something about string theory. It has a good understanding of all these things to be able to give you information that you could find on the internet. But when you sit there and you ask it to do something, like send an email, can't do it. It doesn't have access to your Gmail. It doesn't have access to be able to type into your keyboard and click the send button so that email goes off to whoever you want to send it to. So the LLM doesn't have the ability to do that type of work. because it's outside of like the kind of capabilities it can do. All it can do is respond to your message with text or an image or whatever it may respond with. And so generally what will happen, we all have used some of these things, these automation tools like Zapier and Make.com that allow us to be able to string multiple applications together. You say like, well, inside my business, we're able to send automatic emails when somebody schedules a room. And so what we do, we go into Zapier and we connect the Gmail Zap to the like just reserve the space Zap, and then all of a sudden emails are happening automatically every time somebody clicks a button on the website. Well, we just put the LLM in there. The thing that goes wrong inside these types of scenarios is that the LLM is not like other types of software, where if you're working with Gmail, you have a really clear REST API. That standard is there. It says, hey, you can send the email or you can read the email. That's it. That's what Gmail will let you do, and it's going to do it exactly the same way every time because that's the standard. With the LLM, if I ask the LLM, like, hey, give me a poem, is it going to give me the poem in iambic pentameter every single time? Or will it switch it up and say, like, okay, maybe they want a funny limerick this time? That's completely up to the LLM. All I told it what to do was to give me a poem. And so there's a lot of variability inside of that. So when we try to shoehorn the LLM, like other software, into these very structured like flows inside of our automation frameworks, it ends up messing up the whole thing. Because you get from the, okay, somebody just reserved a space, and you get to the LLM and it says, hey, LLM, I need you to write an email. And then the Gmail API is right there at the next step, ready to go send the email. The LLM sits there and is like, all right, you just gave me some information about checking out a room. And so I'm going to give you a receipt. And then passes that off to the Gmail API, and then Gmail sends a receipt to the person. The person is like, I haven't even paid anything. What happened? The LLM is not going to give you the exact same output every time, like other software. And so it doesn't work very well inside these types of automations. Oftentimes we'll sit there and we'll say like, all right, well, instead of having it sit inside of my complex like workflow, I'm going to give it the tools and it'll figure out how to do it. So the LLM sits there and it says like, all right, I got the Gmail tool, I can send an email. I got the Twilio tool, so I can send text messages. I got other APIs, and I'm connected to your database. And then you sit there and you ask it, okay, LLM, I want you to go look at the past 5 transactions, make a report, and send it to my boss. And the LLM has to sit there and is like, all right, so do I send a text message to the boss or an email? Or do I go, like how should I look at this database? Because you gave me like the information about it, but like what's in the database, really? These types of questions are hard for the LLM to really think through, because all you gave it was tools. It doesn't really know what to do with those tools, especially when you give it a complex like task. Give it to a person, the person may come back and ask you a couple questions like, all right, well, tell me about this database. How do I even, like, you gave me like an API key, but what am I supposed to do with that? The LLM can start asking those questions, but that's not how we want the LLM to work. We want the LLM to take that information and go do the job. I gave you the tools, especially if it's a more skilled person who's done it before. They'll be like, sure, I'll go ahead and look at that database and then give you an email. But it's better if we're able to give the LLMs something to be able to give them some context on how to use the tools better. And so you can think of MCPs like a USB-C for AI applications. So instead of just giving the LLM the tool, you give the LLM instructions on how to use the tool, that's the MCP, and the tool. And so now, when you tell the LLM, hey, I want you to write a funny email and send it to my boss, it understands, like, I'm writing an email. I have an MCP that says write an email. So I'm going to use the write an email MCP, write the email, and send it on that MCP. The MCP takes it and it says, all right, the LLM hit the write an email function, and now I'm going to use Gmail to send the email. And so through this type of context, we're able to give the LLM or the AI a lot more information about what it can actually do with the tools we give it. Under the hood, to make it just a bit more clear, you may have something like this basically happening inside the background. So on the left side, we have the host, which is your ChatGPT, your Claude on the desktop, wherever you're chatting to your AI. The AI has access through the MCP protocol, to be able to actually interact with all these servers that are actually going to go do the work. And so what you end up having is, hey, AI, I need you to go write an email. The MCP protocol says you can write emails with me. The LLM says, all right, write emails with the MCP protocol that says I can write emails. And then the actual work, similar to what you do inside your automation, it's going to go hit Gmail, do the thing, and then come back and say, LLM, I'm done. And so another way to look at this is to basically say, anytime you're thinking about doing like an integration between two pieces of software, there's some work that you have to do. You have to go in there. If you're inside of like a Zapier, you have to go in there and maybe draw a line from the Gmail node to the Twilio node, or whatever connection and integration you're trying to do. MCP is giving you a lot of context on how to actually do the work of using this new thing. And so if you're interested inside of trying out some MCPs, the first thing you need is a client. Client being the place where you're going to chat with the AI. Claude desktop is one in particular, which is like the one made by Anthropic, and so MCPs are very well integrated into it. ChatGPT will have it soon. Sam Altman points out that he's interested, and he's training, and he has a team working on like adding it to the desktop application. If you code, Cursor has functionality for MCPs already built in, and so you can use it inside of Cursor. If you are using a Windows machine, Microsoft Copilot Studios, I'm not completely familiar with that because I don't have a Windows machine myself, but they have MCPs like functionality inside of that as well. So like on your Windows machine, you can add MCPs there. They all have different instructions on how you do this. Reason being is that we're very much inside of that new phase. Being able to set up MCP is not just the most obvious and easy thing. You have to follow the instructions on those websites to be able to understand, like, all right, here's the steps, and now I can do it.
Just a quick point. In Claude, if you're running the desktop, you go into your settings, and there's a developer part of it, and there's a little toggle for turn on model context protocol. When you turn that on, it's going to install some default, whatever we want to call them, connections, MCPs, but to logo things. Like, so now Claude can write files to my desktop, for instance.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does that even when I don't want it to. But now I have a lot of files on my desktop. But it has a few of those. So if you want to actually play with this, it's under the developer, it's under settings developer. Go, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're very much, again, at that point where two people came together, they said there's 14 standards, let's make one universal one kind of stage of things right now. So like MCPs were made by Anthropic last summer. It's just now getting into a mainstream sense, and it's looking like it'll be the standard. But like Google just came out with one last week too. It's the agent-to-agent standard. And so these standards for using AIs with different pieces of software are currently inside of this very evolutionary phase. MCP looks like the absolute front runner at this point, and there's plenty of places where you can go and get new MCPs as they're being created. For example, Zapier, all of Zapier's apps are MCPs now. And so like you can just use Zapier's MCPs and they work. If you're already set up with Zaps, then you can just open up Claude Desktop and use all your Zaps. This little logo at the bottom is the logo for MCPs. They made a logo. And so other protocols don't have logos, by the way. Most don't. But MCP does. And so if you go to MCP like .com or .io, they have some listed there, MCPs that are first party that were made by Anthropic. And so like when you go into Claude and try to set up MCPs, they have instructions on that website, but they also have like some basic ones like if you want to move files around on your desktop, or have Claude organize your downloads folder, which is my personal favorite, because my downloads folder gets absolutely disgusting after a while. But I just sit there and I say, go ahead and organize this inside of a way that makes sense. And all of a sudden I have beautiful folders, one for PDFs, one for images, one for screenshots. And all of my downloads make sense now. This one is Composite.io. And so what they do is a little bit different, which is more along the lines of like on a business side. So what they do is that they went and they've made a whole bunch of different MCP servers. And all you have to do is install their one MCP server, and then all of the MCP servers that like you might want are already installed with them. And so all you have to do is just sit there and ask it to do something. And then if you have gone on their website and said, I want this one, and this one, you've logged into Gmail on their website, then they'll be able to send you an email. You can do all the different things that you might want that another application might have for you. But again, it's very similar to Zapier, where like all of them are inside of one. So what can we do with this? To bring it more into the practical sense, I'm going to talk about like what I've been exploring with the Mobile Baykeeper. At the Mobile Baykeeper, they realized like a while ago that they had a whole bunch of applications as a nonprofit that they were spending way too much time in rather than going and protecting the bay, right? And so what does that mean? It means like they're inside of their CRM, which is Every Action, too often just sitting there trying to input information about recent donors, input information about possible sponsors for new events. They're spending too much time inside of Asana clicking off that they finished a task, their task management software. Too many times they're inside of Asana making a new project, writing out a description for it, and then blasting it out to everybody so that they can then click off all the tasks that they've been assigned. They're too often digging into their SharePoint, which is similar to Google Drive, or if you're not using a Microsoft ecosystem, trying to find different pieces of documentation or old reports so that they can go and do something new and interesting. What I saw with them is that they're using all of these very common like tools, right? They're using Asana. They're using Microsoft SharePoint. They're using like QuickBooks for doing all their finances and invoicing and things like that. These are very common and big applications. They all have Zaps, right? They all have automatable parts. They all are built into all these different automation softwares. But Baykeeper doesn't have any automation people working there, and they're too busy protecting the bay to be worried about trying to set up some new automation that's probably not going to work 2 weeks later when the process has changed and they have a new project. And so Baykeeper is inside of a great position to be able to adopt MCPs by having all of those applications, those four kind of really big applications that they use most often inside of their work, inside of Claude. And so by having it there, they'll be able to say, all right, Claude, I just got done talking with the donor. Their name is blah, 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 and they do this, this, and this, and they could possibly be a sponsor for this event. Go ahead and go into Asana and check off my task for finding a new donor, and go into Every Action and input their information. I'll wait here for your report. And then Claude goes and does it. Because it can go use the Every Action tool and go input all the information about that new donor. It can use the SharePoint tool to go and make a new document about why this person could possibly be a donor. It could go use like Asana and start making some new tasks to really go and validate that donor and collect their money. They can go use their QuickBooks and then say like, all right, there's a possible expectation of more money. Let's change the financial projections. But they just gave some natural language instructions to the machine, and it got to work. And so what that means is you save that employee a whole lot of time, where they would have been clicking on 5 different websites, trying to do 10 different tasks, when the AI could have been doing it for them, and they could have been back to the next thing. Now, I'll do a demo for you, but we're on Kai's laptop right now. I highly recommend you go to MCP, like modelcontextprotocol.com or .io, and try out the file system MCP. It's really good. I promise you, I know that your downloads folder is not organized. I know it's not. I don't have to ask you. I don't have to look at your computer. I know it's not. Go in there, use that file system MCP, tell it to organize your downloads folder and see what happens. This is the best way. Now, if you want to get to more MCPs, you say like, all right, Paul, I've tried MCPs. I know what they can do. I've tried the file system one. Yeah, it organized my downloads folder. Now I can actually find the PDF I just downloaded. Well, if you go to this QR code where I put get to more MCPs, there's all these MCP directories. This is the best one that I found. And on that directory, I promise you there'll be an MCP that you didn't think would even make sense. My favorite one that I found recently on that site was an MCP to have the AI come and play Minecraft with you. So if you're playing Minecraft, you open up you go to Claude and you say, hey, start playing Minecraft with me. It starts the MCP up, and now you have a new player inside of your game, and you can give it instructions through Claude. You can say, hey, why don't you go build a building while I'm mining? And then you go off, playing the game with the AI, tandem with you.
I'm going to crush my son.
Yeah.
Can you like put that into Bob? Hi, Paul. You crush my son.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just add in Minecraft, otherwise, you know.
They'll pull the wrong tool out.
Steamroller MCP.
And you can book time with me. I'm here at the Innovation Portal. Happy to help new businesses figure out ways to use technology in better ways. Yep.
I think this is, so right now you were talking about, you can use that within Claude, or hopefully soon within ChatGPT.
Yeah.
But I think where this is getting really powerful is if you start, for a company especially, or a non-profit, if you start integrating that into, for example, a WhatsApp bot, or a Slack bot, or a Discord bot, where if the gatekeepers are out talking to donors, they could go like, oh, hey, I'm at this event, and I just talked to person X.
Yeah.
Here is a picture of the business card. Add that person to the CRM.
Yeah.
Send them a welcome email. Or like, oh, I did this and that. So it can go and do more advanced things. But the interface, like right now, it's in a way limited to Claude Desktop and other few tools. But for us implementers, the possibilities that gives us is we can connect people where it is easiest. And like with WhatsApp, you could even do like, hey, I take a voice note.
Yeah.
Like I send a voice message to my assistant chat that then goes and transcribes the text and then goes and adds the person's information to or updates the CRM.
Yeah.
So that's where like the natural language becomes much closer.
Yeah, like I've seen, so I'll say two things. One, the thing that always comes to my mind is like, oh my gosh, we're at this point now where if you know what MCPs you want, and you code a little bit, you could set up using something like Vappy, a phone call service, where you call the number and you say like, hey, I just talked to blah blah, and you need to update the system with that. Hang up the phone, and then the AI agent's going and doing it because it has access to all those systems already through the MCP. I think of MCP as like a really, really, really like natural language focused version of free integrations for everything, right? Zapier of free integrations for everything, right? Zapier already made big integrations to many systems, but with the MCP, you now have a natural language way to interact with those things now, right? And so like, if you could automate it in Zapier, it could be told to your LLM to just do. And so that is a really, really fun way to think about it, because like if you can think and understand Zapier automations, then you can think and understand MCP actions.
And yeah, in a way, for the developers among us or for the integrators among us, it is less like what MCP does, you could do before. Like this is nothing new. You could write code using the OpenAI API or the Claude API with TypeScript or Python, and then it's like, oh, tool call, write email or send email. So you could do that. But for every project you had to write it again and again and again. And now you just go like, okay, MCP here, plug. So it's,
Yeah, and I go even a step further to say like, I don't even see a reason why you would write integration code ever again. Because you could just have the AI in between, even in a small way, to say like, all right, the code said do this. And so I'm gonna give that to you, AI, you figure out how to make it happen. And now I'm not gonna write the integration until I absolutely have to because it's too expensive to call the LLM.
And just imagine with the VAPI API, the voice API, you say, hey, find 10 potential or find 100 potential customers and then call them all and read them this script. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
VAPI does have an MCP as well. You can tell VAPI to call it. You're looking at it, yeah,
I don't want to do that, but man, I can envision getting a lot of calls now.
Yeah, it's as easy as typing, go call somebody, here's the number, into Claude. If you have the MCP installed, for VAPI, you can do it with 11 Labs. They got an MCP too. You can just go fire off a phone call out of nowhere into somebody who's going to pick up the phone and hear a very human-sounding AI on the other side.
And I think that the magic part is it's just not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
So like everyone in the room can absolutely turn this on and do this.
Yeah, go to Model Context Protocol, their website, and they got the step-by-step on how to set these things up, and then you can find some really cool ones right there on that second link.
I think.
Oh, what's the question?
Yeah, what is that website? I'm trying to do
It's called Gleam. Let me see if I can pull it up.
It's that one.
What's the website? Yeah, MCP, Lambda.ai. They got all the servers listed here. Yeah. Yeah, I typed in that one. I saw these, like, people made all of these MCPs. There's tons and tons and tons of 4,000 MCPs made within the past, like, probably, well, absolutely 6 months. So.
Well, the thing is that I think AI, like Claude and others, are very good at making them because it's a specified interface.
Specifically for them.
And then, so if you have another API, then you can like, here's this API and this API, go and make an MCP server.
Yeah.
One that I haven't really actively used, but for the developers in the room, again, Context 7.
Context 7.
So a big problem with AI, or with coding, in Cursor or Klein, is that it often, there's conflicting information regarding versioning. So you have React Router 6 and you have React Router 7 and you have version 4 of this and version 2 of the same. And then it messes up things. And Context 7 has a whole slew of the specifications for the latest React and the latest Angular. And it has it, they converted it into Markdown, into a easily understandable format for AI agents. And it's like, oh, I want you to write something with React 19 or whatever we are. And then it can go and look up the specification for React 19 rather than depending on its potentially outdated training.
Yeah, I've had that issue, but at the same time, like there isn't a LLM.txt for every version of every application.
Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
I
That's
think
cool.
Context 7 is working on that.
Cool. All right, that's MCPs. Cool. Any questions on MCPs that maybe something wasn't clear?
Yeah, quick question. So from my brain, so you could already do all this stuff like Zaps, thing, whatever, tie together, API, connect these things.
Yeah.
But is MCP, is it just like super clear instructions to make it okay? So
Exactly.
So it's closer to kind of what we're talking about with like AI agents. It's kind of like gets us closer to that, maybe?
I would say yes, absolutely, because all of this is like really, really clear instructions. Okay. If the tool is trying to say you can send an email with Gmail, it says, okay, if you want to send an email, it's full text, just explaining out exactly how you can send an email with me, right? Rather than just, here's the 4 slots, you got to fill them the right way. Yeah. No more information. Yeah. Right? And so yes, you're going down that path to be able to be more agentic because now it has a good understanding of what the tool does and it can think hard about what tool I should use, when, why, and how, rather than just saying, all right, there's a tool that they gave me, and I don't know whether or not it's going to be useful to solve this task.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Being more clear, which is the same with the person.
Exactly.
You're being more clear to the person. Here's how I want you to do this. Here's
Yeah.
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 Is it like a smarter admin interface? Is that a fair statement?
Very similar. Yeah.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
I said, is it like a smarter admin interface?
Yeah.
And one thing to think about and kind of think about a little outside the box. So right now, these MCPs there is an MCP to send an email. There's an MCP to look up in the database. There's an MCP to do X. But right now, most of the MCPs and the examples that you mentioned are an MCP to do something specific.
Yes.
But now you can also cascade them.
Yeah.
So an MCP server in itself can call an
Multiple
LLM
things,
that
yeah.
can use MCPs. So now you can delegate a whole subtask to a specialized LLM.
Yeah.
So you can have a specialized sales script writer MCP that has a whole bunch of other MCPs that help you to write better sales scripts. And then you can tell your Claude, like, hey, go and write me a sales, or go and use the sales script specialist to go and write a sales script. And like that's a bit of a problem that we sometimes face, that the LLMs, they have only so much context, and if you give them too many tools or too many MCP servers, they get confused. Which tool should I use? So now you can say, okay, you want to do this, and then you have a branching pattern, and then it might itself call LLMs again, but it's all like separated, and then in the end it comes back to the big bosses.
Right. I like because like the big thing with it is that you get this new tool to be more abstract, right? And so what I mean by that, I mean like when you sit there and you say, all right, I got the Gmail MCP that's going to let me write an email, but really I'm not trying to write an email. I'm trying to go send a sales script to 15 clients. And so like the MCP may not be, the one that you use may not be Gmail, it may be the sales MCP. And so when you go to the sales MCP, you say, hey, go prospect 15 clients and go like send the email sequence to those 15 clients. Well, at that point, the AI, all it knows is that I got an MCP that says I can do prospecting and I can do sales. And so it's going to hit the prospect function and it's going to hit the sales function. It didn't have to know about how to send an email to Gmail. It didn't have to know about how to find like new clients. All it knew was that I just need to hit that function and I'm good, right? It's very clear and it's concise. It's not something that I have to think hard about. I just hit the function, and that function, that MCP server, may go and hit a couple more agents, right? Or it could just have a sequence of events, multiple different functions that it hits, because we know that this particular Zap automation is exactly the thing that needs to be run at this time. And so that's what it's going to run. Yeah. Cool. More questions?
Well, this is awesome, man. This is great.
Cool.
Let's see. Cool. Before I get started, if anyone's interested, this came up. This is there's a few people that are actually watching the stream. Sorry you don't get this. I will email this or make this public. But this is a prompt engineering cheat sheet printout that I made up. So I get this question a lot for people who are like, hey, how can I prompt better? And I think, one of the things we're learning with AI is that like it's all about prompting. Like how good can you prompt stuff? And so I just printed these out. They're up here if anyone would like them. Cool. That was an awesome presentation. I think I do think MCPs are going to be the next level of AI. And you can see so many reasons why. And I think like this is where we really start to see innovative things come out from AI. And potentially dangerous things too, right? Because you can really stitch together some wild things here, and maybe not always for the best. So now we're going to talk about the news. Nothing quite as serious, but some interesting stuff. AI is being used in archaeology quite a bit. These are the Nazca lines in Peru. And so what's interesting about this, so they used AI to look at drone footage of the landscape. So until recently, they had discovered 430 lines. And that's cumulatively from all times. And these are these crazy patterns. Some are gigantic, some are not as big. But within 6 months, they identified another 303. So they almost matched their entirety. And what it's doing, what's really interesting, is AI can now look at a landscape relief and figure out if it's likely to be one of these lines. And so it's just consuming all of this drone footage and looking and say, yes, over there, even though it's not obvious to the human eye, but it matches a bunch of things, and it's studied all of the previous ones and all of the reliefs, and so it has figured out how to accurately identify them. So their biggest problem is actually just getting them drone footage of new landscapes. But a very interesting use case for AI, I thought. This was interesting. So the Louisiana Department of Health, they're launching a new AI task force. And so on the face, you wouldn't think it's like a super interesting news thing. I think what's interesting about it is this is part of their, principally it's going to be for fraud and waste, right? They want, they have their own Doge version, Loge, I think that's what it's called. And we have a Loge. It's a weird one. But anyway, so they're going to basically employ AI to go through everything and try to detect fraud and waste and potentially make changes, right? And at least advocate for changes. So I thought this caught my eye just because, like, I think we're going to see a lot more of this stuff, right? This is happening in Louisiana. We're probably going to see more and more things, like globally, but definitely here, right? No offense to Louisiana, but if they're on board, everyone's getting on board, right? Like, that's just how it is. Like, the next article is going to be Mississippi's. And by the way, the Mississippi AI group is awesome if you don't follow them. They're doing some great stuff. There's a conference coming up in, I don't know the exact date. I registered for it. A couple of us are going over if anyone is interested. It's the Mississippi AI Collaborative, I think is what they're called. They're the us of there. This is something that hits close to home because I work in sustainability. And so it's very weird. My two lives are AI and sustainability. They are inherently at conflict with each other from an environmental and an emission standpoint. So I was really relieved to see this, that I'm not, destroying the earth, that the economic gains are likely to outweigh the emissions cost. And so it's not sort of saving anything, but it is a sort of the intersection of AI and sustainability. This was interesting. So films made with AI can now win Oscars. So, like, any predictions on what's going to happen? Like, what the next 5 years of movies are going to be? Like, this is 100% coming our way. Like, yes.
Who's going to do the acceptance speech?
It's got to be AI. If they don't, they're really.
It's gonna be a person up there doing acceptance speech, but they'll real quick live.
Yes.
I prompted this
Yeah.
because I wanted to see it.
Yes.
Thank you!
I mean, no doubt it will still take a lot of work to do these things, and you still have to have sort of the vision to prompt it. But there's probably a lot more of these going to be made. And I don't know how many people have been playing with Sora or VO2. for creating video. If you haven't, go to Sora.com. You can create some amazing video. You can do some really interesting things. So what used to be many thousands of dollars is now something you can do in like 2 minutes on there. So I feel like we've talked about this a few times because there's always these claims. So we'll just keep sort of like keeping track of this. So now the Turing test, which most of us are familiar, it was basically Alan Turing's test in the 1930s of if we could distinguish a computer from a human. And AI is getting extremely close, and now they've determined, but I think it's been determined before on other models, that ChatGPT can now pass that test effectively. Like it can, people can't tell the difference through. They have a whole test. Back to the government news. The UAE, they've decided and announced that they're going to have artificial intelligence start to write laws for them. I don't know if there's an MCP for that already. If we just get one of those and we plug it in and we're like, you run everything now. But that's like, we're going to outsource government. So on one hand, we have some AI going through and looking for fraud and waste. Up here, we have it writing the laws. Feels like there's something in the middle, but I'm not quite sure what, because I'm not a political science major. Yeah, that's right. And we get some Boston Dynamic dogs out there. I think this is great. Yeah, this was really interesting. It was interesting that they were very public about it, right? Like this is an initiative for them. They didn't get caught doing this, right? And so, again, all of these things are going to go through a bunch of like human in the loop type checks. So it's not like AI is going to just start making up laws. But that's going to happen. Like, in some way, these things that we're talking about, like, these are just the beginning, and this is like now a sovereign nation sort of testing this at the highest level. Of like, hey, why don't we give it a try? And everyone said, cool, like, let's try that. Luckily, they don't have, you can have a single decision maker. So it doesn't take a whole sort of Congress of people to decide on this. This was a decision from the top. But it's very interesting, and I think like a lot of other governments are going to watch this, right? And it's going to become, the same sort of thing, right? And the question will be whether it ever sort of has any autonomy, where it can write a law and then like implement the law and then enforce the law and have any standing. That will be very interesting. I also wonder about sort of the legal aspects of AI written law. If there's anything like, I don't think our forefathers thought that far ahead, so they did not get this in the Constitution. But again, not a constitutional lawyer, so I don't know if AI is covered. This made me very happy. A lot of you know, so I try to like talk to the schools quite a bit about AI. I'm very passionate about the fact that I don't think that we are doing a good job for students learning about AI. And in fact, it's in many cases going the other way, where they're trying to restrict it. And my personal opinion is that we're just not, these kids are going to graduate from high school and be at a huge disadvantage, right? So this was actually really, I was super happy to see this, where this executive order, it was a good thing because I think at least it sort of gets the conversation of AI in schools going, and there's less fear about it because now it's been like blessed, and there's an executive order that says the words AI and school in the same thing, right? And so it doesn't have any sort of practical implementation. It's not, schools are not, I don't think there's a Department of Education anymore, so like I'm not sure who gets this anymore, but I thought this was good, right? Gen Zs, I think degrees are worthless now because of AI. So I thought this was very interesting. If this is the sentiment, and I'm curious with folks who have kids, is this, do you guys feel like that? like that degrees are worthless. Either the degrees you have now, I think we got a bunch of degrees in the room, or if you were putting kids in college, and I'm asking for a friend who has a 14-year-old home, would you, do you think a degree is a worthless thing?
I say like with the students that we worked with,
Yep.
like working on a project report, they're computer science students about to graduate, right? To them, I showed them how to vibe code. I helped them learn how to use technology to their advantage in the most possible ways with AI, and they had not done that to this point as computer science majors. And at like the difference for them was that like they felt extremely empowered to be able to make exactly what they wanted to make and how they wanted to make it, and inside of ways that look beautiful because they know how to do the code, but maybe not the design.
Yeah.
So it covers a lot of ground for them to make them more capable. And so like for them, they definitely see the value inside of like their education, because like when I started breaking things down, it's like, do you even know what happened and why it's broken? And now they can see the value of their education far more clear than every other class that they had, because they're actually trying to solve real problems, and they're finding out that like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I don't care about, and the things that are hard problems are still hard problems, and I know how to handle them because I went to college.
That's a great perspective. That's really interesting. I'm very hopeful that that's the case, right? Because I think that the two go hand in hand. And, you know, again, getting back to this, these things are almost at odds, right? Like it's, you know, hey, we got to teach kids AI, then kids say, well, cool, we know it. Like, but I'm happy that the idea is that kids are sort of combining them. So I don't know who uses Perplexity in the room. I think a lot of people do. Like Perplexity is one of these things that seems to be on people's AI stacks, meaning everyone uses a couple of different things. It always seems like AI is in there, usually like the third thing, right? Like, oh, I used AI for a very particular use case, but only that. I'm definitely in that, right? Like Perplexity is my search engine. I really only think about it as that, but it resides on my home screen, has a lot of like real estate there. So they're rolling out, or have rolled out this voice assistant thing. And why this is kind of meaningful is that it works on iOS and it's beating Apple Intelligence, sort of Apple's own AI. So it can now do things because of MCPs, where it can now, it can send emails off of your phone. It can make phone calls. It struggles with text messages, but it can interact. You can set reminders, and it'll create the reminder in your Apple Reminder app or your Android Reminder app, like in the native apps. And so I don't think it's bug free. I've been trying it because, like I said, I use Perplexity. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. It's hard to imagine it's ever going to beat Apple, like when Apple really gets serious about it, because they have absolute sort of control over every component. But this is a really interesting thing, and like Perplexity seems to have picked they're going down this like really like tool-based vision, right? They're going to be this like, you know, they don't even compete with, like, let's say ChatGPT or Claude, right? Because they're used in a different way, and this is like furthers that. Interesting to watch. So California realized that they had included 23 questions on the latest bar exam that were wholly written by AI. So they are now like in this process of getting a judge to give people credit for those questions if they got them wrong, because that wasn't supposed to happen. I have no idea what the process is to get questions into the bar exam. It seems like that would be a lengthy process, like not arbitrary at all. And there's no MCP for it. So it's funny that like that question was clearly written with the intent of becoming a bar exam law, like, or you know, a bar exam question. But they made it through. But again, this is one of these like foreshadowing things. It's like pretty soon, like our tests that we take will be sort of AI, and hopefully we have an AI that can take that test for us.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like if AI is helping to write,
yeah.
Isn't it equivalent that AI can also help to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, so most of the big models have already passed the bar exam. Like ChatGPT has passed the bar in every state. and gotten his medical license. So it already has that. So it's very easy for it to write, I guess, questions for the bar exam that would be like, hey, this would have been a good question for me that I would have known.
Nothing wrong with that ChatGPT law degree we got.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
This buddy's passed the law. I mean, he's passed the bar.
Yeah.
I like that. Excuse me, I'd like to turn to my attorney now.
Yeah. Yes.
Claude?
Yeah.
Enter your argument.
Yeah. I'm going to be over here, just like making sure everything goes okay. So, yeah.
I have to when you said that. So the sad part is my daughter passed away, right? And
Sorry.
So I'm taking care of my grandson. He's 4. I need to get his name changed. So every time I go there, they say, you need to get a lawyer, you need to get a lawyer. But I got ChatGPT and Claude. So I typed whatever they told me, I typed in there, and they wrote up all my petitions.
Oh.
And I took my petitions there, and they was like, well, don't join the name change with the guardianship. So I told ChatGPT and Claude, and then they fixed it. Then I took it down there, and they accepted it, and they are changing his name.
Really? All right, that's a win. That's a great story. That's a great story. Not if you're a lawyer. That's not a great story, okay? So luckily in the room, I don't think we're represented. The law is not here. So I think we can speak freely. But no, I agree. It makes a fantastic lawyer. And it goes through, it does it very fast, and it can do it in a way like it explains it. It's like, hey, I changed this, and this is why this is, It is now also my principal terms and conditions reader for me, right? So if I come across terms and conditions where I feel like, I should pay attention to this one, right? Like, which is rare for me. Yeah, things like.
The flight just got canceled. You were stuck in New York.
Yeah. There was something that looked like a very good deal, but it was a flight. It was an airline, and then you had to fly on this day. There was a lot of parameters. So I just copied them all and I put it into ChatGPT, and I was like, can you just break this down? I want to fly up to Boston at a certain point, and it was like, it won't work for you. I was like, cool. That's really what I was after. Anthropic warned, I don't know, that they believe AI employees will be here within a year, right? And what they were really talking about was this is going to create a new sort of a new need in the workforce for people that manage AI employees, right? And in particular, they're talking about monitoring and security. New software that's needed to make sure the AI doesn't get to certain things, or to make sure it does the thing it's supposed to do, because these are going to be autonomous beings, right? Or autonomous agents that can do stuff on their own. There has to be a way to check their work, basically. That was one example of what Anthropic was talking about. But they feel that we will be at the AI employee within a year. This is more fun. China hosted its first, I don't know if anyone saw this, but China hosted their first AI robot games. They also had their first humanoid robots compete in a half marathon. And I think seven ran in it, and 3 finished. I could be wrong on those numbers. It was pretty comical. One finished in a respectable time. But they had the failures were the funny part. Sort of one of them just right out of the gate immediately ran left and launched itself and flailed around or something like that. It was more funny. You're like, yeah, that's what you expect. But it was interesting that.
The funniest is if it takes a left and runs into a bar and sits.
Yeah, he just sits down. Yeah, that's right. It's. At some point, we'll have a cheating robot do one of those and get on the subway and that sort of stuff. But I thought that was pretty cool. It'll be. Yes.
Quick question about the previous one. Do you think Anthropic's saying that because of MCP? Is that part of the reason why they're saying that? Because it takes that technology to be able to pull that together, right?
Yeah, I imagine that's correct. That because they're seeing the sort of MCPs being so powerful, that concept that it will now the the model is the brain,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, okay, we've already created that, and now we're creating like the appendages that can do stuff.
So like really connected.
Yes.
Really smart.
Yes, because there has to be that thing that kind of touches Earth.
Anthropic's probably saying that too because they're the ones that are most concerned about security and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yes.
they're doing all the research about how LLMs will tell you this is how we got to this solution. But they're just lying about it. Like the LLM will do 2 + 2 is 4, and they might just do it on a gradient. But then they'll just tell you afterwards, well, we just calculated 2 + 2 is 4. So Anthropic is the one that's researching the most about how LLMs are lying to you.
Right. And then keep in mind, Anthropic was started from people who, from OpenAI employees who were concerned about the safety, OpenAI's safety measures. So they started Anthropic with a real mission of transparency, safety first. It makes sense that they're putting these out, right? This is their research. This is, the part of their mission is to do that. This is more interesting. So OpenAI, again, kind of like the MCP thing, but this is a proper integration with Shopify through ChatGPT. And so if you manage, if you manage an online store, little plug for LAAI's online store, but through Shopify, you can now you will be able to have ChatGPT manage your store for you, right? Sort of optimize it, change product things like that, which will be.
Did you do that with Natalie?
There's several companies trying to do this. This is pointing out OpenAI is also trying to integrate with it. But like, there's plenty of companies who want to add this functionality to Shopify because
Including Shopify.
Shopify
Yeah.
itself, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I showed Natalie one such example.
Funny enough, the AI that made your slide,
Yeah.
Shopify and Spotify.
Yeah,
bro. The picture.
Oh yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of Spotify.
Actually, I didn't catch that. That is Google's new image tool within their Google Docs. So this article came through without an image, and so I went into the image gen, and I copied that headline, and that's what it made. Interesting. Yeah.
It's identified as Spotify, but then.
I look forward to the AI writing the laws. And I think that's it. But so once again, it was a busy week. I feel like what we see is this ebb and flow of smaller announcements around things like this, and then like in a couple of weeks, we're going to see like all the models get refreshed, and there'll be brand new models to do everything. And then there'll be like a week or two of just like a bunch of interesting under the sheets type stuff that goes on, and then a couple of weeks later, like we're off to the races again, and each one. So
one interesting one that I saw, I haven't cross-checked it yet, but I think OpenAI just released their new image generation model as an API.
Yeah.
yes, they did. That's right.
So that's going
Yes.
to explode in new tools.
Yes.
I wish I had time right
I
now.
know.
Right
You're about to see Buku apps and
Yeah.
I'll say one thing that
Buku apps. You're about to see a lot of.
All right.
One thing I was thinking about, like, because Gronk 3 is now open up as an API.
Oh, yes.
Usable thing, Gronk 3. Because 3 has only been inside of the Gronk app, but now it's actually an API you can use. And I was sitting there like, I don't have any time to make new applications with these new tools. Well, I started playing around with Lovable again, and they recently just did an update too. And so Lovable is like far more capable inside of doing stuff. And so like within like 2-3 prompts, I was able to get to the point of like I made like a Wattpad clone where like you make stories and stuff like that. And like I did that with like 5 free like responses they give you, but like you pay like $9 or something like that, they give you 1,000. And so like you could integrate a lot of those things in there. Because I was sitting there like, well, how can I put Stripe in there? Like there's not a party way to do it, but like when you go to the local docs, they point out like, okay, just tell it make Stripe work.
Yeah.
And do it.
That's funny.
So like you can do the same thing with any application you have in your mind. You can just sit down 15 minutes on Lovable, and then you got a new application out the door with the payment link already locked in.
Cool. That's it.
All right.
Cool.
For everyone, if you want to come around tomorrow, 4 p.m., I have some drinks at Oyster City
All the cool kids are coming.
Hey, also, we are going to have a group going to Sloss Tech
Yeah.
in Birmingham. It's June the 25th through the 28th. Sloss Tech, funny enough, started as a music festival that had a tech component, and now there's only the tech component that is actually trying to recreate a music festival adjacent to it. It will be a great event. Nick, you went last year, about how many people? Enough. A lot. A couple hundred people will be there. People from all over the state. We may have a collaborative AI event with the North Alabama, and Central Alabama, and Lower Alabama folks together collaborating. So neat thing, but if you like tech and you don't mind people, it's a great event. If you like tech and you don't like people, not a good event for you. But yes, lots of cool stuff happening there, and it will be a great opportunity. So you can find out tickets at sloth.tech.
Cool.
And that's a multi-day. It is a 3-day event. Yep. Yep. It's
cool.
Yeah. There's a pitch competition on Wednesday. The Regions Foundation is sponsoring a $50,000 pitch competition. If you want to apply for that, it's due today. Yeah. So get to working. Yep. And, I mean, you and AI could probably figure it out pretty quickly.
Oh, and a big thanks to Nick. So this was our first live stream on YouTube. There were at least 2 people who watched it. What? Okay, good. That would scare me, actually. And everyone said it was great. So cool. The time zones are gonna be nutty. Oh yes, hold on. Listen, this is good, everyone.
Okay, so for those who don't know how to code and what to do, there's a hackathon happening for people who don't know how to code. It's being put on by Bolt, another low type clone thing where you just vibe code apps just by talking to the AI. They're having a hackathon, they're giving away $1 million, and it's happening all throughout the month of June, and during the month of May, they're doing events all over the world. So like